I'm going to begin a new series of episodes, or chapters, if you will, to help you to further your understanding in all of what is spiritual and all of what is meant to be gifted and how to use these gifts or tools to further your soul growth and understanding. So we're going to begin with a simple introduction of the word psyche. This is an ancient Greek word meaning soul or invisible animating spirit. And the word psychic, therefore, means of the soul. This internal essence of ourselves, which is an interface between the invisible universal flow of energy and the manifested world, is the key to unlocking the secrets of the other dimensions. Whether you're a beginner longing to discover or develop your psychic powers, or you want to go one step further to increase your clairvoyant or divination skills, this series of chapters will be very enlightening for you. So you may ask, but what is the soul? The soul is the invisible or ethereal part of ourselves that exists beyond the physical body. Thought to exist before the body comes into being, it will continue to exist after the body is no more. This soul essence connects us with the energy of the universe and with the past, present, and the future. Your psychic sense, often known as the sixth sense and extrasensory perception, or ESP, interprets the soul's messages from the cosmos in a language that you can easily understand through various images, symbols, pictures, words, or sounds, perhaps even smells or touch. And what is psychic power? The world of psychic power has been scorned, mistrusted, feared for thousands of years, largely because it has remained unexplained, but also because it has remained a threat to the ones who wish to control you. But as with any power, there are always those who try to abuse it or corrupt it. In the West, prophecy, scrying, and contacting your spirits or angels has all been associated with evils, witches, and considered heretical. If you decide to develop your psychic power, you must do so with utter honesty and the belief that you are acting for the good of everything. You must also learn to protect yourself from the draining energies of the psychic world and from negative psychic invasion from those that are around you. In our first segment or set of lessons, I will explain the power of the mind and the psychic realms. This will include a questionnaire to help you to determine how psychic you are at this moment. Then we will delve deeper into the different types of psychic power, revealing everything that you would need to know to understand your sixth sense, the power of your imagination, preparing yourself for psychic work, and protective measures or precautions that also must be respected and taken before opening yourself up to the psychic realms or the ethereal realms. Later in these segments, I will be teaching you how to use your psychic powers for healing and protection. We will go over divination techniques and psychic tools that will assist in enhancing your own powers and plunging you further into the realms beyond this so-called reality. And we will also cover learning about altered states of the mind and consciousness and the other dimensions of psychic power, such as the astral travels, and how to get in touch with your own personal spirit guides or guardian angels. We will also cover the chakras, and not only how to activate your kundalini, but also how to reverse the process and shut down your chakras once you are complete in your astral realms works. So we have this thing called the gift. Our innate psychic senses gives us access to the soul's hidden knowledge and provides feedback on the state of others as well as ourselves. It also receives and reveals information that would normally be unavailable or hidden. This paranormal ability to perceive things that are not normally recognized by the five senses brings us into further contact with other supernatural or spirit beings in other worlds. Some people remain completely unaware of this gift, while others will belligerently ignore it, often finding life difficult because they are sensitive not only to other people but to the invisible realms too. They have not learned how to protect themselves from the psychic invasions, merely and most likely because they have chosen not to acknowledge their existence. Others have not learned to protect themselves from the psychic invasions simply because they did not know that it was necessary or a proper method to do so. While some will readily make use of this energy from childhood and develop their powers or try to rediscover themselves as adults. Psychic abilities such as intuition and channeling are all means to reveal hidden information, either from another individual or, in the case of channeling, would be from spirit guides or angels or ascended masters. Other psychic dimensions, including work with past lives and out-of-body experiences, as well as telepathy, psychokinesis, psychometry. The power is there within us, waiting to be liberated and nurtured. But it must be used with care and with respect, because just as we are told in all of the superhero stories, with great power comes great responsibility. And so you have to come from a place in your heart that is of this knowing and of this doing. So what exactly is psychic power? Well, psychic power is the ability to tap into the cosmic energy field that is flowing through everything, including the supernatural and the paranormal planes of existence. Mystics, occultists, sages, and Eastern philosophers, shamans alike, all believe that cosmic energy is accessible to all of us at any time, not just the select few. There are many types of psychic power, and I will further help you to develop your own, whether by using intuition, learning clairvoyance, using divinity measures, tapping into the minds of others, becoming a medium to contact the spirit world or to contact beings of other planets, traveling the shamanic and astral realms, or even with out of body experiences or healing as the shamans do. Our psychic power is within us from birth. But we may lose this instinct as we grow up in the left brain governed world that society teaches us to be in. This power lies dormant in many, but now is the time to wake up. Just to give you a little bit of historical background, the word psychic is currently used as an umbrella term for a wide range of people with psychic skills, including clairvoyance or telepathy, spiritual channeling, or the ability to use psychic tools such as tarot or pendulums or dowsing. Some form of psychic perception has been at the core of many religions and spiritual belief systems throughout all of the cultures of the world. Astrologers, seers, oracles, prophets, and shamans were and continue to be considered to possess a mysterious mystical power or an ability to contact the dead or spirits of the dead. In ancient Egypt, the snake-headed goddess, which was the eye of the moon, the Wadjet, was a renowned oracle, and this prophetic tradition spread all the way to ancient Greece, where oracles, usually inspired by messages from the gods, were frequently considered the priestesses. The most famous Greek oracle was the Pythia, who sat in a trance above the narcotic breath-like fumes of the serpent in the ground beneath her. The god Apollo would speak through her, usually in the form of inarticulate messages, which would then be interpreted. While in China, the divinatory oracle bones have been found dating back to the Shang dynasty, 1600 BCE, which are very similar to the I Ching system that is used today. There were predictions of Nostradamus from 1503 to 1566. He was a French seer that became notorious for his predictions of war, famine, plagues, and the future of European kings. He began his career as an apothecary, but after a visit to Italy became very interested in the occult and wrote an almanac for 1550. He changed his name then to Nostradamus. His original name was Michael de Nostradamus, for anyone who doesn't know. And after the success of his first almanac, continued to write one a year. Containing over 6,000 predictions, the almanac's great popularity among the nobility meant that he was soon commissioned to make horoscopes and to give psychic advice. He began work on the Prophecies, which was a collection of prophetic quatrains, most of which seemed to be reworkings of sacred texts and extracts from the Neoplatonists or earlier classical sources. A lot of Plato's works, a lot of my apologies for the interruption. I had a little one that beckoned my attention. So after Nostradamus, we had the rise of spiritualism. We had the Ghost Club and the Society for Psychological Research, and that led into the 20th century with investigations and researches into extrasensory perception and psychokinesis. Popular psychics of this period would include the great American Edgar Cayce, who was renowned for his trance healing work. And according to Cayce, the unconscious mind had access to the information that the conscious mind did not, and he developed spiritual teachings consisting of an array of themes, including destiny and reincarnation. Cayce also claimed to have the powers to carry out astral projection, mediumship, aura reading, medical diagnosis, and prophecy, as well as healing. Today, psychics reach a wide audience through television, newspaper, books, and the internet. There are many great psychics out there that are very popular in our culture today. Then we look at the scientific viewpoint and the parapsychology. And this is an interesting sector to learn a little bit more about in order to understand the history of where we're coming from with this. So if Eastern tradition recognized universal energy, often called the prana or the chi, flowing through and present in all living things, modern physics has, to a certain extent, supported and proven this concept. The great physicist Albert Einstein stated not only that all matter consists of energy, but also that space and time are relative rather than absolute. And let's not forget the great works of Tesla and his quote, his famous quote, that if everyone could understand 3, 6, and 9, they would understand everything. I'm paraphrasing. But this can help to explain how a psychic individual can see beyond the illusion of time and space. Mystics and quantum physicists alike seem to be in agreement that cosmic consciousness is immanent, which means that it can be accessed at any moment if only you knew how, which I am here to teach you how to do. Now, what exactly is ESP, or telepathy, or intuition? Well, much research was actually carried out by scientists and psychologists throughout the 20th century in order to find the answers to those questions. They even delved into psychic research in a form of experimental psychology, if you will. And in order to avoid the associations with mediums, ghosts, and spirits, they came up with a clever term for it of parapsychology. So throughout the 40s and 50s, many psychologists carried out independent experiments and reported significant results to suggest that ESP was effective and very much real. Yet they still could not explain it until the world of the science world of quantum physics opened up. However, in the 70s, parapsychology became a popular scientific topic of study in many countries, not just America. Canada as well conducted their researches into reincarnation, the presence of an aura, seeing the colors of an aura, how to obtain photographs of the aura as evidence. People in Asia were studying spiritual teachers and the claims of abilities that were produced by meditational states that led to research on altered states of consciousness further by American psychologists. The American Society for Psychological Research even conducted experiments in out-of-body experiences, and that is actually where the term was coined for remote viewing, which is really just astral projecting. It's referring to the ability of an individual to observe any person or object or place in any part of the world via astral projection. There were also studies done on psychokinesis and telekinesis, bending of spoons and moving objects. Carl Sagan was both a supporter and a critic who was playing devil's advocate quite often in our work and study of this. And I would also like to include in this a little bit of understanding about how the brain actually works. So most people think of the mind as simply being the brain. We now know a great deal about the brain thanks to scientific research in those areas. And this evolutionary process of its functions has gained further knowledge. But what is the mind exactly? Well, one definition suggests that it is the ability to reason and think via the faculty of consciousness. In fact, many scientists, mystics, and psychologists have very different views on what the mind is and what it is not. We need to take a look at some of these theories before we go any further. For the exploration of the mind, which is still ongoing, is as fascinating as the exploration of the universe itself. Now, the brain itself is a complex set of working gears, if you will. It's made up of three main parts. We have the forebrain, the cerebrum, the midbrain, and the hindbrain, and the cerebellum. The forebrain is the most recently evolved part of our brain that contains the left and right hemispheres, said to control our motor, sensory, and cognitive functions, as well as reproductive, emotional, eating, and sleeping function. Scientists have discovered that the left side of the brain is responsible for the rational or analytical thought processes, while the right brain is responsible for the abstract thought, nonverbal perceptions, visual and spatial awareness, and intuition. Working in tandem, the two halves of the forebrain complement each other. However, some people are more right-brained, while others are more left-brained in their approach to life and their general behavior, which is fine. There is no right or wrong to that. But the nature of consciousness, according to the scientific viewpoint, is an awareness via our sensory perception of the external world as well as ourselves. In other words, self-awareness is a sign of consciousness. Philosophy takes another viewpoint that consciousness is our personal awareness of any given moment, and that everything that is part of that moment, it is one's conscious experience of both the known and the unknown, of both the familiar and the mysterious. Some theorists link consciousness to quantum mind theory, or space-time and electromagnetic theory, which explains that the experience of consciousness is not just limited to brain activity. Meanwhile, the parapsychologists rely on the currently unmeasurable psychic powers of psychokinesis and telepathy to support the belief that consciousness is not merely confined to the brain. According to psychologists Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung, the unconscious mind is just as important as the conscious mind. Freud believed that unconscious drives unconscious drives have a profound influence on our lives. But Jung also proposed that the holistic health of an individual must include a spiritual dimension. He believed that the unconscious mind was the connection to our spiritual heritage, a link to our soul, and also to the soul of the whole world. Jung called this the collective unconscious. This was linked to a storehouse of archetypes going back millions of years in our human evolution, and which we all carry at a deep level within our personal psyche, or as I would like to say, our DNA memory. So then we have this universal energy. Mystics, psychics, spiritual writers of today all believe that there is this universal or cosmic energy that we are linked to, and that our own conscious and unconscious minds are linked to. Immanent throughout the universe, this is the energy that binds everything together and which flows through everything. Known as the chi to the ancient Taoists, this energy is now commonly called subtle energy. Einstein referred to it as spooky energy or spooky matter. I personally liken it to a transmission and receiver of, say, a radio broadband or something, right? However, among scientists, there's an ongoing debate about the unconscious. There's cognitive psychologists, for example, that maintain that the unconscious merely consists of those mental processes that are not mediated by any sensory perception. So now we're working toward the mastery of the mind. And if the mind is the interaction of both the conscious and the unconscious mind, then it is necessary to learn to control our conscious mind, be mindful, if we are to tap into the universal energetic field, accessed through our unconsciousness. Being the master of your own mind is not an easy task. Remember that the conscious mind may well have a mind of its own. As in the Buddhist practice of mindfulness, we need to calm the babblings of our thoughts by using specific techniques such as meditation, visualization, and breath to take an objective view of the busy mind. This part of our consciousness gets into habits, both lazy ones and anxious ones. By knowing that you don't have to accept or listen to the thoughts that run through your head, you begin to realize that you can reject the negative thoughts and flip them into positive ones. This is the true meaning of having a mastery of the mind. It is you at your very soul source essence. Sometimes this source is called our higher self, or the third eye, which is your gateway to your higher self. It is also the route through which your mind works to move outside of itself, to align with the soul and to access the invisible or spiritual world. Psychic powers rely on developing and controlling other parts of the mind and knowing that you are still master of that mind. These include imagination and concentration, willpower, discipline, motivation, self-confidence, detachment, and calmness. If you strengthen and develop this part of your mind, you then can work with and through these energy fields that are all around you. This is the merging of the body and the mind with the soul, and is the pathway to true psychic power, as well as to truly knowing thyself. Now, in closing, I will leave you with a questionnaire. It's a simple yes or no questionnaire. And this is to see whether you have a right or a left brain tendency. The intuitive and perceptive right brain is the side that you need to develop in order to unlock your psychic powers. So answering yes or no to each of these statements is a good way for you to gauge how much learning there is left for you to do. So yes or no. I find meaning in symbols, images, and experiences. Fantasy, fiction, and imagination are all important to me. When I'm lost or confused, I trust my gut feelings. I often lose track of place and time when I'm being creative. I don't like carrying out mathematical tasks or making lists. I prefer to follow my hunches than to listen to reason. I often act without thinking. Other people tell me I'm psychic. I have the ability to see the bigger picture, not just the details. I can always remember someone's face, but not always their name. I enjoy taking risks. My desk looks chaotic, but I know exactly where everything is. I often will think of someone and then they phone me a few moments later, or at least within the day. So if you agreed and said yes to 7 or more of the above statements, then your right brain is dominant. If you disagreed with more than 7, then your left brain is dominant. And if you have more or less equal yes and no answers, then your left and your right brain are fairly evenly balanced. And again, there are no wrong answers here. This is merely to be used as a gauge so that you know where you're at in your growth, evolution, and development of your psychic gifts and your connection to spirit. And I'm going to leave this here and end with that questionnaire. And with the next segment that we pick up on, we will begin with the subtle energies, the subtle body, the 7 states of consciousness, and then we will end with another questionnaire on are you psychic and how psychic are you? So until our next segment in this chapter of learning, as always, be well and be blessed in love and light.